What's up, guys? Can you hear me? Great to be here. Thanks for coming out. My name is Dan Sequeira. I'm a BD Manager on the Avalanche team, the entity helping build the Avalanche blockchain. I'll be talking about who's building on Avalanche, what they're doing, what we've done together, and where we can kind of take this network. I'll be kicking off the hour, and then I'll be handing it off to Patrick O'Grady, our head of engineering, and Gabriel Cardona from our DevRel team, who'll be focusing more on the technical side of the platform and what we've done here. So, seeing as I'm first, I wanted to give everyone a brief introduction of what Avalanche is, if you're unfamiliar with it. Avalanche is the fastest smart contracts platform as measured by time to finality. So when a transaction is confirmed on chain, Avalanche boasts sub-second confirmation time. Avalanche is EVM, so familiar tools you use on the Ethereum virtual machine on Ethereum or other EVM chains are integrated on Avalanche or can be easily ported over. Avalanche currently boasts 1,300 validators and scalable up to millions. The reason for this is because of our Avalanche consensus, which is a novel consensus protocol that was developed at Cornell University by our CEO, Professor Emin Günserer, and a few of his PhD students, Kevin Seknicki, who's our COO, and Ted Yin, who's on our research team. Avalanche is home to over 1,000 plus decentralized applications and real-world customer-facing tools for institutions and enterprises. And lastly, Avalanche is not a monolithic chain. It is scalable horizontally, through something that we call subnetworks. So to illustrate this, here's kind of a bird's eye view of what Avalanche looks like from the top down. You have the primary network that effectively has three chains: the C chain, the X chain, and the P chain. The C chain is the smart contracts chain. That's where all Solidity is from a mainnet perspective. It's decentralized, anybody can launch anything on it. If you've ever interacted with Avalanche, more than likely you've interacted with the C chain. That's where things like Aave live. Uniswap v3, when it launches, will be live on the C chain. That's where the majority of dApps, NFTs, and ERC20s live. If you've ever onboarded or offboarded through Coinbase, it directs you to the Avalanche C chain. I'm going to skip over the middle section, the X chain, just because it's not particularly relevant for this conversation, but it is an option out there for high throughput payments. And lastly is the P chain. The P chain, or the platform's chain, is a place to coordinate validators, and once you have a validator, you have the option to spin up your own subnetwork or your own custom blockchain. For those of you who have used DeFi Kingdoms or familiar with some of the games like Krabata, you've interacted with an Avalanche subnetwork. So I was asked to speak today on use cases. What are we doing at Avalanche? Who's building on us? And what have we learned together? Seeing as it's consensus, I wanted to focus more on the institutional and enterprise side. But as I said previously, we've got over 1,000 apps launching. We've got games, we've got DeFi, we've got NFTs there. But wanted to give you a quick highlight specifically on 6 case studies from an institutional enterprise perspective. So starting off here on the left, we have KKR, which is a huge traditional finance institution, hundreds of billions of dollars under management. They were interested in building their brand onto Web3. It was an experiment for them, right? They saw the news, they were interested in tokenization, and so they approached us and Securitize, which is an ATS and tokenization platform, to tokenize a percentage of their healthcare fund. It's a $4 billion fund that's only available through accredited investors. Traditionally, to get access to it, you have to call a broker-dealer, you have to get a portfolio manager, or somebody very, very plugged into Wall Street to get access to it. Well, through this tokenization effort on Securitize, you could be at home, on your couch, in your bed, go through the KYC process on the Securitize platform, use USDC to buy and sell KKR, or a percentage of KKR, the healthcare fund. We learned 3 major things from this initiative. First, it increased the percentage of pie that was offered for investors, right? The traditional folks that were getting involved in investing in KKR's fund were traditional finance suits. All of a sudden, you've increased this to an up-and-coming generation that are more familiar with tech and want to have access to something that's not crypto-related, but also track it on something like DBank, for example. It also lowered the investment minimums. Because you can actually tokenize it, right? So you can have fractional shares of a fund. The investment minimum was, say, $1 million can be cut down to $50,000. And so it increased, again, the velocity of money moving in and out of the ecosystem. The last 2 here on the right kind of build on each other. Avalanche Evergreen is an initiative we announced about a month ago. It is a custom toolkit that allows for anybody to launch regulatory compliant blockchains out of the box with familiar tools like Fireblocks like MetaMask, like Credo, custodians like BitGo, Copper will work immediately out of the box. So historically speaking, from an enterprise perspective, when you launched on a private chain, it was extremely siloed, right? You were in your own vacuum. You didn't have interoperability with the broader network. You had to build your own tools from the ground up. Avalanche Evergreen abstracts that away and allows for real institutions to play around in a sandbox like we do on Ethereum or on the Avalanche C chain, and gives them the opportunity to kind of test out compliant R&D solutions, use something that we call on-chain finance or smart contracts for invoicing, settlement, things like that. About a week ago, we announced something called Spruce, which was our first cohort on the Avalanche Evergreen subnets. It brings together T. Rowe Price, Wellington, DRW, and Wisdom Tree, titans in the traditional finance space, puts them in this sandbox and says, here is an accredited investor chain. You're not having to worry about pooling capital where a malicious actor is involved. You know that everyone there is an institution. Utilize it, right? See how the pipes work. Figure out how the invoice systems flows down to your accounting systems. And so they'll be using the chain for FX transactions, for credit issuance, for interest rate swaps, which historically speaking are on totally separate back offices within the region, are now on one level infrastructure playing field. 3 unique examples, all building on what we're doing at Avalanche and the flexibility that Avalanche offers. From an enterprise perspective, I wanted to highlight, again, 3 unique examples, all of which that I've helped support. I'm on the enterprise team at Avalabs, so I've worked closely with the individuals at these companies, building their brand on Web3 and on Avalanche. Starting on the left here, Lemonade Insurance, which is a publicly traded company, approached us about bringing parametric insurance on chain. Now, they wanted to service a very niche clientele, which were farmers in Africa. And to do that, we had to create almost a DAO of different enterprises. So we brought together Chainlink, Avalanche, the Lemonade Foundation, Hanover, Pula, Etherisk, and a few others I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head, to create this entity that specialized in specific verticals. Chainlink for oracles, Avalanche for layer 1s, Lemonade for insurance, Hanover Re for reinsurance. And we created a platform that allowed for any African farmer who KYC'd on their mobile app could take out an insurance for their crops. So the protocol launched in October of last year, and as of the end of May, it onboarded 7,000 unique farmers insuring their crops. All paid in USDC, all built on the C chain that's live. It is still in a beta, so it's still in a kind of trial process in Kenya. But as you can imagine, as this scales and we onboard more and more farmers in the region, we move to Southeast Asia, to Latin America, to farms in Ohio, it makes it very, very exciting to see this new generation of folks utilizing the blockchain in a way that they don't even realize, right? So if there is a weather disaster or a payment needs to go out, it's immediately sent to the Oracle, which triggers the release. So it reduced payments from 2 years to less than a day, right? Sub-second finality on Avalanche. In addition to that, with African farmers specifically, they were at the whim of predatory practices in the region. Traditional businesses didn't want to go there because they didn't have the expertise that they did through the DAO. And so this really, really allowed them to see what insurance can do to their business and how they can kind of grow from there. SK in the middle is the second largest, if not the largest conglomerate in Korea. Its technology arm banks about 30 million users in Korea. It's something like half of Korea, through a loyalty network. And so users can use their app on select merchants and earn rewards that can then be redeemed on the platform itself for goods at those merchants. The technology arm of SK are extremely excited about Web3, and they wanted to future-proof this business. And so they approached us about an Avalanche subnetwork. How can we build our own blockchain that's totally interoperable with the broader network, and how do we do it in a way that's compliant, in a way that benefits our users? And so we're working with SK on this whole process. It's going to be called the Upton subnet. It's going to onboard all their users onto Web3, abstracting away the technicalities of 0x alphanumeric code when it comes to wallets, abstracting the things like confirmations of transactions, but it all will be all on the back end. The beauty of this is threefold. One, the user gets true ownership of their loyalty. The user can see their status grow publicly on chain. And 3, it changes how SK's revenue model works, right? Historically, this was on a SQL server on a database. All of a sudden now you move it to a blockchain with an asset that's redeemable, that in the future is interoperable, it changes the entire balance sheet of the model. And then the last thing I'll talk about is Deloitte on the far right. Deloitte's been in the works for a while. It's live now. Deloitte runs a private blockchain on Avalanche, not interoperable at all, for a government entity called FEMA. FEMA does disaster relief for state and local governments. That platform is live. It allows for Deloitte, for victims of disasters, for state and local governments, to share data seamlessly, to keep a track record of data throughout the movement of funds, and trigger payments immediately. We found that through this platform, through the auditing trail, it reduced payments from 2 years to 2 weeks. It's currently being piloted, and it's going to scale from FEMA to maybe other branches of government as we grow. So 6 unique case studies, 6 unique tales about bringing their brand onto Web3. What do we do as a team at Avalabs, to support them? My team on the business development team at the very top sees teams from inception all the way to go to market, and then after that, we support them through KPIs, through making sure that they have what they need as they build their brand on the blockchain. If they're going through a raise, we'll introduce them to the relevant VCs, we'll strategize with them, we'll be advisors, really, again, helping them. As things get more technical and they need hands-on experience, either launching an implementation or a custom project, we have the Ava Studios and the Ava Cloud team that are roped under our product umbrella that'll work with them on custom RPCs, implementation. As things get more complicated and somebody like SK says, I want a custom wallet that says SK. Well, we have something called Core, which is a white label service that allows them to really flesh that out. And then lastly, if teams are really into the research and interested into the underlying tech in the platform and want to tinker with subnetworks, we have Patrick O'Grady, who will be speaking after me, that'll talk about and work with them on R&D, implementation, overall research at the underlying blockchain layer. So hopefully that gives you kind of a brief understanding of who we are, what we do, projects building on Avalanche. I talked specifically about enterprises and institutions because we are at Consensus and there's definitely an emphasis on that. But there are games, there are DeFi apps, and NFTs all launching. In fact, just outside by the sponsor stage, there's a project called Shrapnel, which is a AAA-rated game that you can play on. Shrapnel is built and powered by an Avalanche subnetwork. And they chose Avalanche because of interoperability, because of their own custom environment, and the fact that they can scale. So I'd encourage you to go check it out. If you have any questions about what I talked about, who we are, or want to chat about your ideas and what you're building, my Telegram's on the screen there. Please feel free to reach out. If I can't answer you, I'll direct you to somebody who can. But thanks for coming out. We're really excited about the future and what we're building here. We've got a lot in the works and a lot of things coming. Thank you.